Baby step 7. You made it, guys. You've watched the last few videos. If you haven't, please feel free to go back and look at that before you do the lesson planning. Please, especially baby step 5, go back and look at it because that's going to help you figure out how to lesson plan. The first thing we need, remember this, in baby step 5, you need your calendar. You need to recall how many days, how many total days of homeschool you're going to instruct. And you need to recall when you're actually going to teach, because you don't want to lesson plan during a week that there is no school, right? So you need to recall this information. So let's go over how I like to lesson plan. Start off by just getting a sheet of paper. Get a blank sheet of paper. It could be a notebook piece of paper. It can be a drawing paper. I really don't care. Construction paper. Just go ahead and get a sheet of paper. We're just going to handwrite everything, and then you can go ahead and transfer that to a document. Once you get your sheet of paper, I want you to split or fold that paper into 7 folds. So here's my sheet of paper, my notebook paper that I decided to use, and I split it into 7 folds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oops, there are 8, but I'm not going to use all 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, at least have 7. So I folded my paperwork into 7, and then I just go ahead and went down the lines like a grid to create a grid so that I can have boxes to input my data. Once you have your paper in the necessary folds, 7 or 8 folds, and you've put your grid or created your grid, you want to go ahead and label the top. This is what I like to use. You don't have to do it this way. You can label how you want. I'm just showing you how I do it, okay? So let me go ahead and get in focus. Doesn't look like it's, oh, there we go. Okay. So I like to put my subject first, the curriculum name that I'm choosing or using, the number of chapters or lessons in that curriculum, whether I need to include a review session for that subject. I also have a column for whether or not the subject is year-round or not. The frequency, which means how often I'm going to teach that subject, and the estimated time. How long will it take me to complete a lesson in that subject? Before you can even do this, guys, you have to have completed your baby step 6, which is your curriculum. You chose your curriculum. We went through the curriculum. We put a sticky note on each book to help us remember how many chapters or lessons are within that book, and an estimated time of how long it will take us to teach a particular lesson or chapter. Okay, so we did that in baby step 6. Within the first column where you had subjects, you want to identify the subjects that you want to plan. Again, you're not going to identify all the subjects you're going to teach, because some of the topics or subjects you're going to teach may not require lesson planning. It may be more of a routine. It may be more of, we're going to read a book and it's going to take us a month to read the book or 2 weeks to read the book. I don't need to write book reading as a subject. For us, for writing, you'll notice writing is not planned out. And that's because our writing, we use Brave Writer, and we basically go with the flow. We're using Partnership of Writing, and I think it's called the Writer's Jungle, and we also utilize IEW, but I don't plan those out. We go with the flow with those things. We can go quicker or faster. It just depends on what's going on. Lots of conversation and dialogue takes place within writing. So the subjects that I'm going to show you today are math, language arts and reading, electives 2, our electives 2. I'm sorry, that is writing. So although we go with the flow with writing, I do plan some of it out, because with IEW especially, they have lessons associated with them. And I want to make sure that we hit a certain lesson by a specific time. Okay, yeah, had a brain fart there. I apologize. I also plan out African studies and science. Okay, so these are the examples that I'm showing you. Something else that I plan out is electives 1. Electives 1 is our U.S. history, it's our geography, it's our government study and world history. So I do plan that out as well. But again, I'm not going to show you everything in this video. I'm just showing you how I lesson plan with some basics to give you some ideas. So let's go ahead and let's talk about math. So for the subject math, the curriculum that we're going to use is Saxon 7-6. If you remember in some of my previous videos, we use multiple curriculums and multiple resources. We have our main primary curriculum, and we also have our secondary curriculum. I normally, in my lesson planning, I normally put only the primary or main curriculum. All the other curriculums that we use are normally supplemental, and they're used for teaching, or they're used for providing examples or different ways of thinking about, looking at, or solving a particular problem or thinking about a particular subject. So math, Saxon 7-6. Okay. Within that book, it has 138 chapters that we're going to teach. Are reviews necessary? I put yes. Reviews are necessary at every major topic. We do not actually have tests or quizzes within our home. I look at those things as reviews. When I say we don't give a test or a quiz, that just means we don't assign a grade to a test or a quiz or a review, nor do I track it or maintain it. In our state, we're not required to. My son is in the 5th grade, so I don't feel a need to. You can look at some of my other videos to understand what we do to track progress and why we do it this way. Is it a year-round subject? Yes, it's year-round. How often am I going to teach this? My goal is to teach this on Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so 4 times a week. How long will it take me to finish a lesson? Estimated 30 minutes. So in order for me to introduce the lesson, teach it to him, it'll take about 30 minutes. You can also think about this differently. If you don't split your homeschool like I do, I focus certain days on instruction, teaching, hands-on conversation, dialogue, and he has independent days to complete his assignments based on what he was taught. If you don't do it that way, then you may want to think about this differently, okay? How long will it take for your child to complete a lesson? So it may take me 30 minutes to teach a lesson and do examples, but let's say it may take your child 45 minutes if they're doing this lesson independently where you're not teaching, and you may be utilizing the book as the teacher because many curriculums provide instruction for the student. It tells the student what to do, how to do it, and then provides them problems. So you don't need to actually teach them. You can just be that person to go over or re-explain or further explain something. You may be using an online curriculum or a DVD curriculum. So this time allotted will, in your case, be how long will it take for my child to review the DVD or the lesson and complete the problems, okay? For ELR, our main curriculum is the Shirley Method, Level 6. There's 112 lessons. Yes, I want to have reviews. I say every 2 to 3 weeks. Is it year-round? We're going to do this for 2 or 3 quarters. It's going to be 6 or 8 months. So we're using the Shirley Method for 6 to 8 months. But what about the rest of the school year? If because we do language arts year round, if I was doing this document here that I'm presenting to you today for myself, I would actually have 2 ELR lines. Okay, I would have one for my Shirley Method 6 because that's only 6 to 8 months, and I would have another row for ELR for my next curriculum that I'm going to use for the remaining of the school year. So for the other 3 to 4 months, I would say what I'm using. just for your edification purposes, although you don't see it here, we use Michael Clay Thompson grammar. So during the winter, maybe the winter, during the fall and winter, I would say from November or December, depending on what happens, through about January or February, we use Michael Clay Thompson. So we use his grammar curriculum, and we also do poetry tea time utilizing some Brave Writer resources. Okay. For electives 2, IEW, we're using A. There's 15 lessons. No, it doesn't require any set aside time for reviews. We're using that for 6 months, 2 quarters. We're going to do that on Wednesdays and Fridays, and it'll take about 30 to 45 minutes for him to complete. It'll take longer here because I'm not actually instructing him. Okay, these are DVD lessons. So between the DVD and the lesson that he has to do, it may take between 30 to 40 minutes. Sometimes it may even take an hour, but we'll accommodate that later on in the process. African Studies. This is the book we're using, A Journey of Liberation, 57 chapters. No review required, or no additional time needs to be set aside for reviews. It is year-round. It's taught Saturday and Sunday, and it takes me about 30 minutes to instruct. So in this area, I do instruct. And I'm thinking, you know what? This extra column that I have here, I think I'm going to go ahead and call this column instruction or independent, okay? So math will be instruction, ELR will be instruction, IEW will be independent, African Studies will be instruction. And for science, we're using the Barron's in the beginning. There's 90 lessons. Yes, I want to do a review every month. It's year-round. We do it Saturday and Sunday. It takes me about 30 minutes, and it requires instruction. I'm going to go back up to math. Math is instruction, and it's also independent. So this is what my grid looks like. This is step 1 to my lesson planning process. I have my subjects, I have the curriculum I'm using, the number of lessons or chapters in that curriculum, whether or not a review is needed, whether or not it's year-round, if not, how often am I teaching it, when am I teaching these particular topics, what days of the week I mean, and also how long it will take for me to teach it or for the child to do it on their own. And I added this column today because I thought it would be beneficial. Whether or not it's an instruction, meaning I'm teaching, or it's independent, where it's self-led all the way through and I'll just be used as a guide. So once I have that information, I can begin lesson planning. So in order for me to begin lesson planning, I have my calendar at a glance. I have my summary of what we're doing, and I also have my curriculum. So we're going to use math as an example. As we learned in baby step number 6, we went through this book and we determined how many lessons or chapters we're teaching. The book may have more or less, not less, the book may have more than these lessons or chapters, but based on my review of the table of contents, I have decided to do 138. And based on the length of each lesson, I said that it will probably take about 30 minutes, okay? 30 minutes. So what I would then do, I would go ahead and I would open to where we're starting off. We're going to start off with lesson number 7 in this book. Lesson number 1 through 6 is a review of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. That's unnecessary for my child. We get lots of practice through that, through math facts. I don't need to go through that. So we're going to start with lesson number 7 in this book. So what I would then do, you can write this information down or you can type it up. I would put, let's say for now, I'm going to write it down just to give you an example. Okay. So, but normally I type everything up. I have this grid typed up on my computer, and I have, so in Excel, I would type this up in Excel, just like this in one tab. And I would have a separate tab for each subject. Okay, so let's say the second tab in my Excel file is math. Okay, and I would put the week that we're starting off with. So we're starting off with the week of the 24th, okay, June 24th, that week. For math, we're going to start with lesson 7. So on my Excel file, you would see here, you would see the week number, when it starts, okay, so this is my math file. You would see, this is for math, you would see one column says week number, one column says date, one column says lesson number, the next column would say topic, and then the next column would be problem numbers or sets. Okay, that's how my first row would look like. So again, you can write it down or you can type it up to you. So if you look back at my calendar, I did not actually write out the week numbers, but that's something you may want to do. I should have done. So this is week 1. This is week 2. This is week 3. Week 4 and 5, we're on vacation. This is week 4. This is week 5, week 6, week 7, week 8, and we would go all the way out and finish the calendar that way. So that should have been a part of baby step number 5. I do apologize. I did not write the week numbers, but you do want to identify your week numbers. So we would look at our calendar, and we would say we're going to start with week 1. For week 1, we're going to write here week 1. Week 1. When does week 1 begin? Week 1 begins for us on June 27th. So we're going to write week 1 is the week of June 27th. What lesson are we going to do? We're going to do lesson 7. So I'm going to put during week 1, we're going to do lesson 7. Are there any other lessons we can do? Based on how long lesson 7 is, we can probably do lesson 8 as well during that week. So I'm going to say during the first week, we're going to get through 2 lessons. So we're going to do lessons 7 through 8. What are the topics? Lesson 7 is linear measure.
How much? Oh, 194 from the, okay. Yeah, it probably could get you in and out today. Probably real soon than you think. So, all right, call me when you get there. All right.
What?
I'll be back.
Okay. Oh my goodness. I was not recording. Oh my goodness. So I said like 10 minutes of information. Okay. So hopefully I can remember what I said. But okay. So for this process here, I take this process or continue this process the same way for every single subject that I teach. So math, language arts, electives 2, African studies, science, or if I had some additional subjects, I would do this process for every single one. And that's why I said it's really important in one of the other baby steps for you to determine and figure out how to best plan your homeschool year. Do you want to do it for the entire year? I take about 2 to 3 weeks to complete this process for all of my subjects for the entire year. Or you may want to break it out into more manageable pieces. You can do it every semester, every 6 months, every quarter, which is every 3 months, or you can do it every month, or you can do week to week planning. Break it out in chunks that are manageable for you, that are less confusing for you. Although I do mine for the entire year, like I just showed you, that may not work for you. And keep in mind, I may do that throughout the whole year, but I would say every month, I am going back to my document, completed document for each subject, and I'm saying, does this still make sense? I said we're in week 5, and for week 5, we should have been on lesson 15. Are we on lesson 15? If not, why? Can I skip the lesson that we're on during week 5? Whatever that lesson may be, whether or not I may be ahead or behind or on target. Does my child need additional practice on a particular topic? So although I plan year round, just like this, breaking out every single curriculum by week, by date, by lesson, by topic, by what I'm going to have him do, and based on any additional resources I'm going to use, I go back on a monthly basis. I take a look at my at a glance lesson plan, and I ask myself, am I on target? If not, why or why not? And I make the necessary adjustments. For you, you may want to do it on a weekly basis because that may not work for you, or you may want to do it on a monthly basis, but it's totally up to you. The reason why I go back on a monthly basis is because our homeschool is on a routine. We're not on a schedule. So although I break this out as a schedule, I'm only doing that as a foundation. I'm doing that as a method to help me stay on track, or to help me or to help guide myself through the curriculum or the process. But because we're in a routine, which means we don't have a particular topic assigned to a particular time frame on a daily basis, I can get off track. But I'm okay with not being completely on track. Okay. Let's go back to this document here when I talked about reviews needed. In math, I said, yes, I want a review after every major topic. So when I'm going through my book, I am deciding what are the major topics for me. What I've decided was major topics are order of operations, fractions, decimals, percentages, algebraic expressions, integers as examples. Those are some examples that I consider to be major topics. So what I would do is, as I am breaking my lessons out, once I realize that I'm at the end of a particular topic, because within this curriculum, although they spiral through, they'll stick fractions within a certain area of the book. So let's say it's within, the middle of the book between, I'm just giving you an example here, it may not be accurate, between lessons 15 and 22. They may focus on fractions. And then the lessons after that, they may spiral it back in to refresh your memory. So at the end of chapter 22, I may say, okay, it's time for a review. So I may, let's say I'm on week 10, right? If I'm on week 10, let's say I'll just tell you, week 10 falls on the week of September 9th. So if I'm on week 10 and it falls on the week of September 9th, my lesson here will be review of fractions. So I'm actually reviewing or using one of my weeks not to move on to the next lesson, but to review that major topic that I said would be needed for math. Every subject is not like that. For electives 2, as we talked about earlier, there is no review. African studies, there is no review. But the others, there is a review. So I would have a week set aside for that review. And I would review fractions, the topic here. I may do multiplying, subtracting, dividing, and adding fractions with different denominators. That's what we're going to focus on. There are no problem sets, right? So I may say we want to do lap booking. I may say we want to do notebooking. I may say we want to do a unit study. I may do that instead of using a particular curriculum to just go over problems. Resources. I may use Math Mammoth. I have some Zakara books, which is like challenging math word problems. I may use that. And another resource, I may use YouTube as a resource for my review week for fractions. Okay, so that's why this column here was important. It fits beautifully right into my lesson planning. Okay, so let me go ahead and show you what the end result of this looks like. So once I do this, I have a tab for each one of these, right? For each subject, I have a tab in my Excel file. Once I have those separated, then I put them together as one big lesson plan calendar. Let me show you. Another way that you can do this is by looking at the number of lessons or chapters that are within your curriculum. So let's stick with math. So for math, in this Saxon 7-6 book, I'm going to teach 138 lessons, or my son is going to complete 138 lessons. If I know there are 21 weeks between June and December, I can divide that 138 by 21 weeks in order to determine how long it will take me to complete the book. That says I have to complete 6 chapters a week. That's not going to happen. But remember, guys, I only showed you 2018. If we look at the 2018-2019 school year, it's more like, let's just an example, let's say it's 40 weeks in our year-round homeschool journey. So then I would take the 138 chapters or lessons for math, and I would divide it by 40 weeks if I consider 2019 as well. So I would do 138 divided by 40, and that says I have to complete about 3.5 chapters per week. So remember what I was saying earlier in the video, for math, for week 1, we would do lessons 7 and 8. For week 2, lessons 9 and 10. If I did it this way, where I figured out that I have to do about 3.5 chapters a week in order to complete the curriculum by the end of our 2018-2019 calendar year, week 1 would have been chapters 7 through 9. Week 2 would have been chapters 10, 11, and 12, and so forth. And some of those weeks would actually have 4 chapters rather than 3 chapters. But I don't like doing that only because, guys, I'm not a stickler for completing my curriculum. Okay, go back to the prior baby step where we talked about the curriculum, and you'll see how I can skip through some of the chapters within each curriculum. I may combine some. I may decide not to even do it because I may have other resources that I may want to use. So basically, I'm not going to utilize every single chapter or go through every single lesson for all my curriculum. So that's why I normally don't do it this way, where we divide the total number of lessons by the total number of weeks. I normally like to schedule it out this way, where I have the week number, the date, the lesson numbers, and the lesson numbers may not always be in order. So when I complete my process, I may jump from 9 and 10. I may jump to lesson 12 through 15 and then skip around and do lessons 19 through 20, because some chapters I may not want to teach separately because it's really quick for him to figure out, or I can combine it with another lesson, or I may not want to teach that at all. Okay. Or I may decide to teach it later on in the year or the following year. So again, your lessons do not have to be in a specific order. You are tailoring this for your specific child's needs. Okay, great. And then I would say this is what my entire homeschool lesson looks like by the week. So I would pull in what I had for math. And although it doesn't say math here, I'm not sure how that got erased, but this is math. So whatever I planned for math, I would put it in the appropriate column. If I, in this case, did it for Bible, I would put that, language arts, and all the topics that I planned individually, I would go ahead and pull them into one document so I can look at it. Hence the word year at a glance. I want to see everything I'm doing on one document so that I can take a look at what our month or our semester or quarter or year looks like. And if I want specific details on any one of those things, I would go back to my Excel sheet that I created for every single subject. So here you will see for math for week 1, it started off the week of July 1st. I put early start here because we did basic reviews, but we didn't really start our curriculum until week 1. So week 1, this is the date. For math, we're going to do decimals, okay? For Bible, this is what we're going to do. For ELR, this is what we're going to do all the way down. And if I go back and I look at my individual sheets here, then I'll have week 1 to be 7-1. I'll have the chapter, the problems. So this here, and again, this is an example. So my final sheet that I have here is not going to match the example that I was giving you, because for the purpose of this video, I just wanted to show you my steps, not make everything match based on what I did a few months ago. Okay. So this at a glance will basically identify my subjects, week number, dates, and topics. Okay, that's it. The individual sheets that I created in Excel, or by hand in your case, for that particular topic will tell me what lesson number am I using. It'll tell me what problems I am assigning or examples we're working through. What other resources are we pulling in to teach that lesson? Okay, so that's how I utilize these two documents together. I hope this made sense, guys. I hope this was of benefit. I hope you learned a few things. If you have any questions for me, feel free to put them in the comment section below. If you wouldn't mind, please like and share this video. And as always, be blessed and make it a great day.